and I'm here to speak on our response to the Supreme Court's decision on the child welfare case that we've heard recently. I am very excited about this decision because it affirms Indigenous peoples' rights and jurisdictions over children, youth, and family services, including their ability to make their own laws to protect their children, youth, and family services. The other aspect that I very much appreciate about this decision is the importance of the national standards that were upheld, and I very much appreciate the 43rd Parliament who enacted the bill that was challenged, as well as ensuring that the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples is respected and upheld. And finally, just to say a quick thank you to all the First Nations, to all the advocates that helped fight for the recognition and acknowledgement of Indigenous people's rights. And I also need to express that I will be following what this Liberal government does based on this decision because I am greatly concerned with previous decisions by this Liberal government to, for example, allow Jordan's Principle to sunset, and we'll be pushing to make sure that Jordan's Principle does not sunset, that it continues to be funded so that we can all work towards making sure that mental health services, well-being services are being funded through government programs. I'll take questions if you have any.
What are you hoping this decision will build towards?
First of all, I hope to see First Nations, Métis, and Inuit making their own laws and those laws being respected. They already had them before Canada's genocidal policies to eliminate First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, and I look forward to the work of Indigenous peoples making laws that will help protect children, youth, and families.
It doesn't necessarily grant First Nations the same authority as provincial governments. Like, it's still not full sovereignty. Do you wish that the court went in a different way on this? Like, how do you see the federal government reacting to?
I do hope that this federal government will take it as an indication that that jurisdiction is very important, that allowing that jurisdiction to flow is a form of reconciliation, and that this Liberal government has an opportunity to follow through on the promises that they made, to share that if indeed their relationship with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit is the most important one, that they show it through the implementation of what's been said in this Supreme Court decision.
I'd also like to get your thoughts on the federal government's handling of child welfare in general. So there was the settlement in October of last year for their handling of Jordan's Principle and child welfare at large. Cindy Blackstock currently has a motion in front of the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal right now saying that the federal government still isn't living up to its obligations under the principle. Just like your comments on that.
It is disappointing. I was elected in 2021, and I've been interacting with this Liberal government now since then. And every time that they bring forward legislation or respond to court cases, they've always taken a very minimal approach, only making sure that there's incremental change when it comes to improving the well-being of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. And this Liberal government very much needs to change its efforts. It needs to shift so that it really is focusing on improving their relationships with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit nations.
And some of the First Nations leaders at the AFN's press conference that wrapped up a little while ago we're not sure how the Quebec government would react to the decision. What is the ideal outcome for Quebec's handling of this now that there's a decision that says that the law should be upheld?
I do hope that Quebec realizes that it too has obligations to make sure that they're having positive relationships with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit in their jurisdiction, that Quebec itself is a settler nation in Canada, and that they need to have very important relationships with the original inhabitants of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, including in Quebec. Thank you.